Today is Saturday, August 6, 2022. It is also day 180 of Blender, and I'm going to do another text animation in geometry nodes. So I'm just going to hide the spreadsheet, click on New for a new geometry node system. I'm going to disconnect the input from the output, and then I'll do Shift A and put a string to curves node. And then I'll connect the curve instances, which is the output of this node, to the geometry input in the output node. And that's so I could see it in the layout, but I can't see it yet because I haven't set it to anything. Now today I think I'm going to do something different, like a business name. So I searched up something that has to do with like a salon, and I think I'm going to do this one, like Cutique. So I'll do that. So I'll put in Cutique. All right, and now I'll just kind of zoom out, do Shift A and get a transform node. And I'll just change the rotation X to be 90, so it rotates 90 degrees along the X axis, which in this case is the red axis. All right. To give it some fill, I'm just going to do Shift A and get a fill curve node and put that after the transform and change the fill curve to n-gons. And then I can do Shift A and put an extrude mesh so that that basically gives the thickness to the letters, but I can change that value to 0.1. And then if I look at it in the back, it's not filled, it's hollow, which is a problem. So in order to fix that, I'll do Shift A and get join geometry, and that joins both the effect of the extrusion mesh and also the fill curve once I add it to it. And now it's filled in the front and in the back. Now, as for the font, if I go back to the first node, which is string to curves, I can change the font by selecting the folder over here, but I'm not sure if I want to download like a certain font, so that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to try to see if I can find a cute font to use. Alright, so I'm in defont.com, and I think I'm going to go with Rheingold. I don't know if that's how to pronounce it, but I'm going to download that, and hopefully it downloads. So let's see. So let me look at my downloads here. Oh, it just opened. Okay, so I'm just going to move all of this to my desktop and then delete it from here. Yes. All right, now we have everything there. So what I'll do is I'll go to Blender and I'll go to the folder. I'll go to my desktop because that's where I have the files, and I'll just pick it. I believe, I think I want bold maybe. Okay, so that's looking pretty cute. So like we can see the difference from before and after. So what was it again? It was the bold one, right? All right, so I'm gonna end up with that, and it's looking really cute. All right, so now on to the colors. I believe I'm just going to use one color, maybe. Let's see. I could do that gray color. Let me see. All right, so I'm gonna try these colors over here, maybe this one. And I'll go and just do a Shift A set material node and put that right in there. And for the base color, I'll change the hex code and just paste that in there. And then I'll make sure I'll set the actual material to be what it is in a few seconds. So should select the material, and then I'm gonna do Control S, and then I'll be able to do 8, 6, 22. Save that, and then alright, and then change the view to viewport in the viewport shading of the material preview, and I'll be able to see it like this. And then what I'll do is I'll go to layout, and I'll do Shift A mesh plane, S scale G to grab, X to move on the X axis, and then I'll go to edit mode, go to edge select, select the back edge, E to extrude, Z to extrude along the X axis, and then I'll just grab it SX back in object mode, GZ to grab it along the Z axis a little bit downwards, and then I'll probably do Control S, material preview, and then I'll kind of find a background for the backdrop, and I think I'm going to leave it as white, or I don't know, should I leave it as like gray? I don't know, I'm not sure. I could always do like a gray. Alright, and then I'll go to front view by pressing the button, I'll do escape key, control numpad 0 to kind of align my camera to the view. If that doesn't work, go to edit preferences, inputs, and then make sure emulate numpad is on, it should be at the top. And to get out of this view, you click the middle mouse button. To go back into the view, you press on 0. So I'm just going to kind of align the camera again to my view. Alright, and then I think this is good. I'll move on maybe just like a little bit like this. And then I'll just go back to geometry nodes and kind of go onto like the animation part. So for this, for the animation, in order to move them, I have to get a Shift-A translate instances node. And what that does is if I change the X, it goes left and right. If I change the Y, it goes up and down, and then Z is forward and backward. But I don't want all my letters to be moving at the same time and at the same place. So I'm going to just go here in the layout and I'll do Shift-A and get an empty. I'll make it a sphere. Go to Object Data Properties and change it to a single arrow. And I'm going to call that my control in my outliner, and I'm going to go back to the text object, and I'm going to drag, not the cube, the control into my scene, into my geometry nodes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to determine the distance that they translate or that they move to, like each letter, in accordance with the distance that each letter has from the empty. And so I'm going to get the distance, so I'll get the vector math node because I'm getting the distance between two vectors. Not the length, the distance. And it's basically the distance between the empty and the position of each letter. So that's the first vector, and then the location would be the second vector. And I'll connect that to the translation so they move according to the distance from the empty. Alright, but I want them to move on the y-axis, not whatever axis they're moving right now. So in order to fix that, I'll do Shift-A and get a combine XYZ node. And put that in here and make sure that it's connected to the Y so that it's moving relatively up and down though. But let me see. Alright, and here's something that's weird. For some reason, maybe I should have it on the X. Nope, on the Z. Weird. I don't know why it's the opposite, but okay. I usually put it on the Y, but for some reason that's not working, so I guess I'll leave it at the connected to the Z. Okay. Anyway, now I'm going to do Shift-A and get a color ramp, because what this is going to do, it's basically going to make sure that when the empty or the controller is closer to the letter, the higher the letter will be. But that's not what we're seeing right now. Right now, the closer the empty is to a letter, right, like C, the lower it is. And I want, as I move throughout, as the controller moves throughout the letters, I want the letters to go up. And that won't happen if the rule is that as long as it's close to the letter, it stays down. So I'll just go here to the arrow and flip color ramp, and now that's perfect. Now if I move my empty throughout the letters, they go up and everything. Alright, so the one other thing is I'll do a Shift-A and get a float curve and put that in here, and I'll just make sure to kind of maybe do something like that so that when I move throughout it, it's going fast, like it's going up really fast and then it's staying up for a while and then going down really fast again. So it's kind of like a nice bouncy effect. Alright, so I'm going to move the controller right before it starts affecting the letter C, so kind of right about there. And then at that point, I'm just going to go back to the layout, and I'm going to see, let's see, so I'll do N, and I'm going to pull up my timeline, and this is like the video part. So in my video, for my render, I want 80 frames, and again, I'm going to make sure that it's right before it starts the letter, it starts moving the letter, but I notice that it's going outside of my camera view, so I'm just going to click the middle mouse button and kind of go a little bit more outwards, maybe like that, maybe a little bit more inside. Alright, something like that. And I'll just make sure that the controller is right before it starts affecting the letter C. So kind of about here, and then that location is like negative 1.0944 meters for me. And so I'm going to hover over that in the end panel, and I'm going to insert that keyframe. I'm going to press I, and that inserts a location keyframe on my timeline. And then in the 80, right, on the 80th frame, I want the controller to end up right at the end of the video to be like at the end, right, where it stops affecting the letter E, so right about here. And that location for me is 3.5965 meters. And so I'm going to hover over that location and press I to insert that keyframe in my timeline. And now I can just play it, and it's going to go through the video, through the letters, and just do that automatically. Now the only thing that would be different here, I'll just do Control S, and go to rendered preview. And it's kind of looking like black when really it's blue. And that has to do really with the lighting. And so I'm going to see how I can fix that. If I go to shading maybe. Nope, that's sculpting. I meant shading. Where's shading? I want the letters, the color of the letters to not be affected by the lighting in the render scene. So let's see if I could just find a way to do that. So I can do Shift A, color ramp, or color attribute. I don't think that's it. Let me see. RGB. Is there like a hex code? No, we'll do RGB then. So instead of this color, I'll have to do, I can still do the same thing. Just paste that in there. Alright, and then instead of having the principal BSDF, I can delete that and connect the color directly to the surface so that when I'm in render preview, it's not affected by the lighting. See? Beautiful. Alright, so that's good. Wait. Oh, okay. I was like, why isn't it showing up? Okay. Because I was like selecting the backdrop. So 0, now the color is not affected by the lighting. And I could definitely change the backdrop to be, I don't know, a lighter color. Alright, something like that. I definitely forgot one thing. I forgot to make it an actual backdrop. Right now it's just like a floor and a wall. So to make it a backdrop, go to modifiers, add modifier, bevel, and just increase the amount at the segments, and maybe more of the amount. And then I usually apply that, and then I just right click shade smooth so that those lines in the back disappear. And then I'm just going to press N to get rid of that, pull down my timeline, go back to 0 so I could look at my view. And I think that's it for today. Obviously I have to render it, but I think that's fine. Although the font looks a little bit weird from here, I don't know. I'm not sure if I want to get rid of the shadows, so let me see. If I go to the light, I can go to light, object data properties, and I can make it a sun, turn it to like 3 or 5, and then I would have to grab it on the y-axis, rotate it, look at it through this way, and then I would have to kind of see like the shadows. And I don't know if I want the shadows. I don't know, would it be better with shadows or no shadows? I generally cannot decide right now. I think I'm gonna leave the shadows. I really can't tell. Maybe I won't. Maybe I will. I don't know. I think I'm gonna leave the shadows. All right. Now on to the rendering part. So go to output properties, scroll down into output, select the folder that I want my images to render to. So I'll probably just do today's date, 8/6/22. All right, select that folder, accept. The images are going to render as PNG, or at least the frames are going to render as PNG images. So that's the file format. I'll just do Control S and then click on render, render animation, and those frames should render in that folder that I told it to render to. And we'll see that happening in a few. I have all of the frames rendered as PNG images on the folder, so I'm just going to X out of here, X out of here, and then at the top I'm going to scroll down, go to the plus sign, go to video editing 2 times, scroll this bar all the way to the left, and then I'm going to add an image sequence, and then I'm going to go to the folder that I set up for my images to render, and I'm going to select the first one, scroll all the way down, and shift select the last one and add that image strip. And now basically what Blender's doing is just putting it together, right? And it's really, really good. And then now all I have to do is go back to output, which I should be there already, go to the folder, create a new folder where my video is going to render, select the folder, and then at the format, make sure it's FFmpeg video, and then the encoding, make sure the container is MPEG4, and for the output quality, make sure it's high quality, Control S to save, and then go to the top, scroll up, and then render animation, and then it should be super quick and super fast because all Blender is doing is just putting the images together and making it into a video. And so the video should render in that folder that I specified. Alright, and this is the final result. Somewhere here. It's somewhere here. Okay, here it is.